welcome to the Blockchain Cooperative.
My name's Karan.
I'm Tara.
And I'm Sean. So today we're going to be talking about three primary topics. First, we're going to be talking about Bitcoin and how it compares to gold, and sort of just thinking about money in general. Tara is going to kick off that discussion for us. Then Karan is going to lead us a discussion about blockchain, sort of beyond the libertarian bubble and understanding the politics of it. And then I'm going to talk about the accessibility of blockchain and sort of the cultural differences when it comes to interacting with exchanges and coins, especially from abroad, particularly in Asia. So why don't you kick things off for us, Tara, and talk about Bitcoin, gold. What are your thoughts?
Definitely, yeah. I think it's a really interesting topic because a lot of the words you hear surrounding Bitcoin, like mining, for example, it brings people back to the concept of mining gold.
Right.
And gold has just, for thousands of years, been like a staple in people's minds when they think about currency and its store of
Yeah, and
value.
there's also sort of like the gold rush kind of feel
Right,
too, right?
exactly.
Like
The
the
excitement
50s
around it.
and-
It's easy to relate it to that.
Yeah, and I think people thought about like the mining rush as like kind of a gold rush of its own, right?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think beyond just the fact that you mine it, Bitcoin
Yeah.
specifically, and the fact that there is a finite quantity,
Yeah.
it's also relatable to gold in that sense.
Yeah, and that's like a really big part of the way like the gold standard is established.
Exactly,
Right?
yeah, it totally separates itself from a fiat currency that can just be printed and printed.
Yeah, I think that's like a really important comparison, right?
Definitely.
Because you're an economics major too.
Yeah, I am. So that's something I'm super interested in
Yeah.
is how inflationary fiat currencies can be and just how detrimental that can be to a national or
Right.
international economy. And
Because you're sort of at the risk of the political stability of your country, right? So it's like we
Yeah.
see hyperinflation in a lot of countries, and gold, at least theoretically.
yeah, it has the ability to take some of the control away from the central bank or
Yeah.
the policymakers. So beyond that, I think a lot of the time people might struggle with applying any intrinsic value to
Yeah.
something like Bitcoin. And sometimes people might think gold separates itself from Bitcoin in that sense and might have intrinsic value.
Right.
But then when you really break that down, we might use gold for certain things, but its value is pretty much just as
Arbitrary, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I've also, I don't know. This might be a little bit of a tangent, but in a Mad Max sort of universe,
Yeah.
where let's say all electronics fail, and what that means for Bitcoin, I don't fully understand.
Right.
Maybe we can hear from our viewers what that would mean. Could it survive if every power grid went down, right? But in those situations, right, like you can use gold.
Right, a
and
physical
like,
commodity,
yeah,
it gives
it's
people
tangible.
some, right,
Yeah, I think that's something people
some
struggle
safety,
with.
some security
Yeah.
there for sure. If you can't see it and feel it and touch
Yeah.
it, it's scary. But yeah.
Definitely. So yeah, why don't we talk about like gold in terms of money and like what its basic functions are there.
Yeah, so a lot of the time we think about money and money having three basic functions. So that would be as a medium of exchange,
Right.
having a store of value, and being a unit of account. So there are ways in which Bitcoin definitely can be. Okay, I don't know where to go.
Yeah. Well,
I don't know
so
where to
like
start.
I mean,
It's like-
yeah.
Okay.
I think. I don't want to do. Yeah, I don't want to do like too much of talking too.
Yeah.
In terms of medium of exchange, right? It's like not everybody is going to accept Bitcoin, right? Like, does it have that fungibility?
Yeah, so there's definitely an issue with applying it as a currency. So we still see a lot of people trading in Bitcoin as if it's a stock. So
Yeah.
if businesses aren't accepting it, are we really thinking of it as a currency? Are we spending it in
Right.
exchange for goods and services, or are we just playing around?
Yeah.
Right, because
Yeah, and that's something that I'm going to touch on later in the topic when we talk about, beyond the libertarian bubble. But yeah.
Definitely. I think as a store of value, it's easier to see Bitcoin's.
the value of it, right?
Yeah,
it's easy to see
totally.
its value. With the
Right.
value.
Yeah, that's what we're focusing on every day when we check its value.
Yeah, and with the store of value, it's like, because hodlers, right?
Exactly.
Like what? So what? Remind us. What is a hodler? Yeah.
So hodlers we're in it for the long haul, right? We're not just looking to make a quick buck. We don't just sell when it hits its next peak. So
Like not swing traders, right?
Exactly,
They're people
yeah.
who see themselves holding it in the long run.
yeah, permanently.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
And we have another video where we actually explain, another
Yeah,
member of our
definitely.
team, Anne-Marie, explains the origins of the word hodl, HODL, and sort of how it fits into the Bitcoin crypto universe. So y'all should definitely check that out.
But yeah, that third basic function as a unit of account, people might struggle with that. It's hard to conceptualize sometimes when you look at your account and it's like, I have 0.05 Bitcoin on my
Yeah.
GS, what does that mean? And maybe you have the concept pretty firmly, how many US dollars that is.
Yeah. And how does so what about, does volatility, does that affect our ability to think of it?
Oh,
as a unit?
definitely.
Yeah.
When I woke up this morning, I had X US dollars in Bitcoins, and that's changed over the past couple of hours.
By a
So-
lot, right?
Right, so so that's always the beauty
Yeah.
of hodling. You don't have to concern yourself with second by second change.
Yeah, but I think that's a really important point too, right? It's like that volatility makes it imperfect as a unit of account, right?
Yeah, and it sort of reminds me of that joke that was circulating where, dad asks his son for $10 and the son's like, well, what do you want to do with $9.5? And the dad's like, well, I need $11 for this, essentially speaking to it takes seconds for something to change.
I think that's a really,
Yeah,
really
right.
good
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
And touching back on the inflationary nature of fiat currencies, I think a lot of the time we don't feel those changes that are happening quite so rapidly. But I mean, when I went to Costco 6 months ago,
Yeah.
I was seeing different prices. I think the value of US dollars is also changing, and
Yeah.
it's something that we also need to be focusing on.
Yeah, just like inflation in different sectors too.
Right. I think
yeah.
that stability might be a little bit of a veil covering up the fact that it's not perfect
Yeah.
as a unit of account.
Yeah, dollars, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, very imperfect. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think that's a great discussion about money. Karin, do you have any other thoughts about it?
Not about money per se, but I'd use this as a transition to talk about, what we were talking about earlier with hodlers and the culture of cryptocurrencies as well as blockchain. So something I guess that irks me, and I guess this is a question for our viewers as well, is, who are the people around you that talk about cryptocurrencies?
Yeah.
In my experience, it tends to be these sort of staunch libertarian types. And I don't theoretically have an issue with that, but when you go to r/Bitcoin and you just see people being like, hold, it gets a little bit off-putting after a while. It's almost like ideology drives a lot of crypto discussions. And I think that's valid, but I also think there's way more to it. I think there are a lot of progressive applications out there of crypto and blockchain. And I think there are two distinctions I'd like to make, and two distinctions that I'd like to remind everyone of. One is cryptocurrencies and blockchain are not the same thing. Cryptocurrencies tend to be blockchain-based. It'd be really funny if they weren't blockchain-based. We've talked about that. But blockchain technology as a whole, doesn't have to be cryptocurrency. You can have, there are projects out there, music, that are blockchain-based. This is, land registries.
Yeah.
And, I'm going to cover a couple of those, but.
And those use cases are so important, right? It's
Absolutely.
I think that's really where I've seen people transition into evangelists of blockchain is when they really understand this does have the power to displace institutions that are typically rent seekers. How about remittance payments? Do you have,
Yeah.
Pause for a sec so I can cough and
we'll go.
So this is exactly what I wanted to bring up. I think, so just a quick fact about me, I grew up in Dubai, and Dubai is an economy that's hugely based on remittances.
Yeah.
Remittances, a lot of the labor that moves there with the ultimate goal of sending that money back home. Right now, let's say your service worker might use Western Union as that intermediary to send money home to, I don't know, India or the Philippines or Sri Lanka.
And they're sort of a monopoly too, right?
Definitely.
Exactly, like Western
not many
Union.
other options.
Yeah. But when you can do that through blockchain, the transfer fees are really low. The speed at which that transaction happens is really fast, and it seems to be that blockchain is just a more effective way of sending remittance payments back home.
Right.
And I think this feeds into a broader discussion we've been having, which is if you really care about blockchain and you really care about cryptocurrencies, don't limit yourself to looking at the West.
Yeah.
See what's happening in Asia and look at what's sort of happening in Africa as well. These are markets with huge potential for blockchain application.
And it's just a great concept to not be forcing people to sacrifice some of the money that they're making and trying to send home for some security and some peace of mind that it'll actually get there. And that's the service that Western Union is currently providing, but at a cost, at a pretty high cost.
Yeah, absolutely. I said that there were two concepts that I wanted to sort of talk about. I would say the other one is, I talked about these like libertarian tropes, but I also wanted to focus on the things that libertarians and I would say progressives have in common, which is, I think they both value security and privacy in many, many ways.
Both distrusting of authoritarian
Definitely.
institutions.
Absolutely, and I think that really explains or sets the scene up for that second use case. What I've got in front of me is how blockchain how people have started using blockchain in India, and one of the most interesting uses for it is land registries. I mean, I would say this is what got me excited in this technology in the first place. But essentially, I think there's a TED Talk somewhere where someone lays this out really well, but he essentially talks about, well, what if you could have land records on a blockchain? And in that case, you have transparency with the state. The state knows, who owns what land, and everyone else around you also knows what land belongs to who.
Exactly. Yeah. And there's a really sorry, Jerry, do you have a thought?
Yeah, I'm just thinking it's really easy to forget in the United States just like how applicable these things are. We think like if the government changes hands, how unstable people's lives can get. Just like I owned this property, do I still have, are those records even still exist? Are they going to be manipulated? It's not something we have to concern ourselves with here.
Yeah, so it's interesting because what you're talking about with land, I don't understand the Indian market super well, but my brother just actually purchased a place, and I know that one of his expenses for the closing cost was something called, I think it's a title search. And I was kind of like blown away by it, but it basically just requires looking at the entire historical documentation of who owned it and passing it along. Basically, it's very like involved, convoluted, and like it requires a lawyer that usually charges about $1,000.
Oh, God.
Right? Yeah, and that's like a perfect example of like an institution where it's like this is dated, right? Like there is a better way to do this, and the value that blockchain has with trust and decentralization can do that, right?
Yeah, and I guess like a quick technical, if a quick technical tidbit about blockchain. When you look at a blockchain, any transaction on the blockchain or on a cryptocurrency always looks at every single transaction or event that is taking place. So, for example, a title search that might not even be necessary. The very act of conducting that transaction or that event happening requires a title search to happen first. So that's a great example.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think these two things, change of governments and doing these title searches, both great examples.
Yeah, I think like I kind of want to go back to your point about the politics too, right?
Yeah.
Because I encounter this a lot in the space, like how it feels like a very specific type of person is into Bitcoin, especially in the United States.
Yep.
And Tara, like I think this is a very important part of our, like there's a serious gender skew, right?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I mean, I don't find myself having these conversations with very many women. And that's I'm an economics major. I mean, still in the circles that I run in, which are filled with people that you would expect to be
Right.
interested are, it's still lacking. There's still a huge discrepancy.
Yeah, and how and the content creators too, right? Like there aren't many YouTube channels where
Nope,
it's like
yeah.
women in front of the camera.
Yeah, when I think about all the research that I've been doing, who I get all of my information from, it's almost exclusively men and
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that there's consequences to that, which is like which information we choose to preference and like what issues matter the most to us. And so that's actually something I think we're eager to do with this channel is bring more women into the space and get more women excited about it, or just have them better.
conversation.
Yeah, have that conversation, have them better represented too. How about so on the political front? Do you have any other thoughts about like the whole libertarian Austrian school? Do you like so I have something like I think there's this one. So there's the Friedrich Hayek quote, right? Friedrich Hayek is part of the Austrian School of Economics, and he said this thing about how this is the quote: practically all governments of history have used their exclusive power to issue money to defraud and plunder the people. What are your thoughts on that quote in general? Like what?
Yeah. You know, I think this speaks to a broader point, or a broader thing that I've thought about, which is there's a huge disconnect that I see between libertarianism and libertarians.
Yeah.
I find the ideology pretty palatable. Like I think
Yeah.
there's a lot of I won't identify as such, but I think there are a lot of good things to take away, and I think that's
Right.
theoretically like that is something I think a lot of us can get behind.
Yeah.
I think it does show that.
Yes,
Yeah.
that governments do preference people in power, and I think like the TCJ, like the new tax reform bill, right? Like by year 2027, 83% of the gains go to the top 1% of earners,
Mhm.
right? And I think like even on this like across our group, we have a little bit of a political mix.
Yeah, definitely. I
Yeah,
think it helps us to have better conversations because I mean, as
Yeah.
someone who like would probably identify as a libertarian, I like first hearing about blockchain, it got me very excited. Just on an ideological level, just what a great concept. But then that's not good enough to keep the ball rolling and to keep yourself interested in it every
Yeah.
day. There's so much more to it.
yeah.
Oh yeah. And actually this brings up a discussion we've been having, which is about Ripple.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's this sort of tug of war, or I won't even say a tug of war. I mean, there's this sort of like these opinions about Ripple that are like, well, the banks made it. This is horrible.
Yeah.
This defeats the purpose of the blockchain. But I don't necessarily think that's a realistic or productive view to have. When we can clearly see that any technology requires its early adopters, and if they have to be established institutions, if in the long run it helps the technology, then why not?
That's one of the most fascinating things about Ripple is because the CEO says all the time, right? Like banks aren't going away anytime soon, right?
yeah.
But the use cases for blockchain can make banks' transactions a lot more efficient, and that hopefully. See, here's the thing: we can't necessarily trust banks to pass on those savings, and I think that's a lot of like where our skepticism comes from. But there's such important use cases, right? And so that actually, like you and I had this conversation like last week at a bar. Like we were talking about how we wish that progressives saw the value in blockchain more, right? Like I'm a student. It's actually a couple hundred feet away from where we're filming at the Ford School of Public Policy at the University of Michigan, which is a really great program. And I think that there's so much skepticism from professors. I went to a professor on the first day of class, and I tried to ask him about Bitcoin. I tried to ask them about Bitcoin, and they basically said that they're very confident that Bitcoin won't be around in 10 years. Whether or not, and then the second question I asked him is, like, what is your understanding of the technology that backs blockchain, right? And so I think that's where the biggest, like, like once, if people understand how blockchain works and what the value of decentralized
Hard
trust
to
is.
argue that that's just gonna disappear. I really, people lose me when they make statements like that. Because I struggle to believe that you fully understand the application cases and the power of blockchain. That you could think it would just disappear.
And
Sorry, I was gonna say, I think I talk about this all the time, so you're gonna have to hear this again. But again, this is a technology, not just a product, right? Like we've had AR and VR since, I found out that we've had AR and VR since the 80s. Like it's not new.
What do AR and VR stand for?
Oh, I'm sorry. Augmented reality and virtual reality. Like, we think about these as like Oculus Rift, we think about this as Pokemon Go, but these technologies, we started thinking about them a really long time ago. And sure, the products might not have existed for another 20, 30 years, but the technology was still in like research labs' minds. It was still, the technology never went away. And to think that blockchain is going to disappear seems to it seems to be a misguided way of thinking about how technology is created and adopted. Yeah.
Definitely. I think, and I just to sort of wrap this discussion up, there's a really great tweet from Vitalik Buterin, who's the founder of Ethereum. And this happened on December 12th, 2017. And it was when the total crypto coin market capitalization, so the aggregate value of all the different types of coins together, it just hit $500 billion that day, or $500 billion. So Vitalik said, so total crypto coin market cap just hit 0.5 trillion today, but have we earned it? He followed up with a couple really important points, and I think that this really gets to what the best use cases of crypto are. How many unbanked people have we banked? How much censorship-resistant commerce for the common people have we enabled? How many digital apps have we created that have substantial usage? Low added value per user for using a blockchain is fine, but then you have to make up for it in volume. So basically, so the gist of this, right, is like the use cases of blockchain are so powerful, and they really do have like the potential to lift all boats, right? Like it does save so much in transaction costs, and it can displace really powerful monopolies like Western Union. And I think that that's a really important thing to keep in mind.
Oh, absolutely.
I think I hadn't even heard the term unbanked until I was actually reading this book. It's a great book. It's by Paul Vigna and Michael Casey. It's called The Age of Cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
They make a ton of great points, and they describe a lot of the current applications. In Africa, for example, like the mobile apps that are allowing people to perform just basic transactions much more safely, quickly, securely. But they made one great point, which was in the US, a lot of the times it feels like cryptocurrency is an answer to like a problem that doesn't exist or something.
Yeah.
Whereas in the rest of the world, it's so much easier to see exactly.
Yeah.
So you have to look.
Right.
1000%.
I learned this in a financial engineering class this week. What is the continent with the highest percentage of users that have some kind of mobile app banking payment? I'm not getting that term right. Yeah.
Africa.
Yes, in Africa. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the point. Yeah, right. Like so many people have that, and that's a really important thing to consider. Okay, ready for the last topic?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I'm still figuring out how to navigate this topic, but basically, I think it's really important to consider how a lot of the blockchain news and a lot of cryptocurrency news and coins are coming out of Asia and particularly China, and we're going to be exploring regulatory impacts and relationships in other videos and content, and I think that that's super important. But I want to talk about sort of credibility in general, and when it comes to communicating with Western audiences, just sort of like the type of experiences we expect. So I'm going to single out someone in particular named Justin Sun. Justin Sun is the founder of a coin called Tron. He's incredibly smart and incredibly ambitious. He was on Forbes 30 under 30 list. He was the chief evangelist for Ripple in China. He's a graduate of the University of Pennsylvania, and he's a student at Jack Ma, the founder of Alibaba's Fudan University, which is like a very sort of exclusive program mentorship. And so he's very active and very vocal on Twitter, and it's interesting watching these Chinese companies try to navigate this. So we're going to have the screenshot up on the screen, but he talks about how one more really big. So here, can you read that tweet for me?
Yeah, one more big exchange is on board. Will announce soon. Guess the name. Hashtag Tron, hashtag Tron.
Yeah, hashtag Tron, hashtag TRX, $TRX.
Okay.
Yeah, so basically, so my point is that like there's a convention to how social media tweets and interactions look from like Western brands and companies, and this isn't how it looks. The grammar is also wrong, like it's unsound, and I think like
I don't know what that meant. I
Yeah.
did not know what that was.
one more big exchange is on board, like yeah, like
So,
and this is.
You have to really decode it.
Yeah, we have to decode it, and I mean, you know, like I'm everybody learns English different. His English is way better than my Chinese, right?
Yeah, not throwing stones.
Yeah, but I think that like it's important to recognize that like these institutions that we're putting money into, like we expect like a certain level of credibility from, and I think that like I see this a lot on other websites too. So I'm gonna pull up an example of KuCoin, which is one of the largest Chinese exchanges. And we're going to read what it says on the screen. Okay, I don't have the KuCoin tweets available. Whatever. Okay. Well, yeah, so the point is, like, yeah, we expect certain conventions when we interact with these institutions. And so Twitter, for example, right? Like, this that you will see in the corner of the screen is the Twitter page for Binance.
You have to go searching for that. It's the handle. But you won't see that information anywhere else.
Yeah, exactly. So this person has 58 followers and tweeted once on March 15, 2017. So it's clear that this has nothing to do with Binance, the exchange, right? And Binance, by the way, for those of you who don't know, is the largest cryptocurrency exchange in the world now, has over 6 million active users. And yeah, I mean, I know that like Twitter is kind of a land grab game, right? Like you got to pick up those hashtags early, but or not hashtags, but you got to pick up those handles early. And it's clear that yeah, this person joined in September 2012, before Binance probably existed, definitely before they existed. But it's like, I don't know, can you guys make your own Twitter page?
Right.
Like, can you try to buy this from them? Like, this doesn't exactly build credibility in an institution that I have potentially thousands of dollars in, right?
Especially with Twitter being such a great medium of like a quick information, quick news, just like little bites of information that which is so great in like a cryptocurrency world where things are changing rapidly, and you might want to be hearing from Binance when you're concerned about something, when there's some fun.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think this speaks to I think a video that we want to make in the future, so look out for that, which is about the user experience of exchanges and cryptocurrency. So a little bit tendentious. I that's what I study. I study user experience design. But I think one of the things that we're trying to say is that UX design matters. Like the words on these exchanges and the how they look, what they say, how they're laid out. These are things that affect our behavior. And for example, I think I just got the KuCoin thing, and it says, in order to protect the safety of assets, please complete sensitive validation, something. And
a concerning message to have pop up on the screen based on the language.
And again, this is not to say that Justin Sun or any of these people don't have a great grasp on the language. That is absolutely not what we're trying to say.
Yeah.
But as a business that is trying to penetrate the Western market, these things invoke certain things. So for example, KuCoin being like sensitive validation operation. I remember spam emails. I'm like, this sounds scary. Like this sounds, I want my business to know what it's doing, and I don't know if this business really.
Right. Yeah. No. And just like those sloppy like imperfections on like the copy, really just like the language on their website, like it makes it difficult to know if we can fully trust them. I think like and that's I think just like my general thoughts about transparency, right? Like I think in China right now, I hope we don't get too much flack for this, but there's a lot of very meaningful concerns about whether or not regulators are going to ban access for all Chinese IP addresses altogether from accessing any form of crypto exchange. I've absolutely seen leaked documents published in Reuters to that effect, and it's a very real concern. And I would like to know how, so KuCoin, who we're going to throw a screenshot of their Twitter page up right now. Also, you can see it has it has 135 followers and has never tweeted before.
Never tweeted.
Yeah, like the thing is, again, these are institutions we're potentially putting thousands of dollars into, and they need to build trust with us. And so KuCoin, even doing the most basic research is difficult, right? Last I checked, KuCoin doesn't have a Wikipedia page. This is an institution that does millions of dollars in trading every single day. The challenge is that, you know, like we want to be able to trust these institutions, but at the same time, like, it's hard when, like, there's all this sloppiness, and we can't necessarily trust, like, the language. Yeah, that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah, with KuCoin. So I don't know. Just throw a best practice out there. I don't know, some free advice. Like, it would be a really good idea to issue some press releases telling us exactly what you guys plan to do in the event that China bans access to crypto exchanges for its users. Because as far as I understand, and again, like, I've tried to do the research and I still don't know the answer to this question. Like, KuCoin is based in China, as far as I know. I wish I had that to say concretely. For a long time, I actually thought they were based in Korea, and I was mistaken.
I did as well. Yep.
And so the point is issuing press releases saying, like, you know, we understand that there are some concerns about how Chinese regulators are going to be responding to this. Like, in the event that China does block IP addresses, we will do what Binance did, for example, and we will relocate our headquarters from China into a country like Tokyo, or into a place that's friendly and amenable to these things. Wouldn't that help to build security in the
Definitely.
coins that we invest?
Just a little bit of peace of mind.
Yeah.
Anyway, like, the PR in crypto is horrible in some cases, like, for a lot of people. Yeah,
and like on a similar note to PR, also the news in the crypto universe is so bad. Another example we'll definitely talk about in a video was an article that a friend sent me that turned out to be automatically generated from, like, a news bot. And this is the worst part, it was automatically generated from a random user's Reddit post. Yeah, and it's just like, and it made the claim that Justin Sun sold all of his Tron coin, which, yes, was debunked. He responded immediately. It turned out to be inaccurate. But it's like, you know, like, we need better news in this space. Yeah. But the point is, like, we are all very excited about crypto and blockchain. There's still a lot of open questions and a lot of things that are imperfect, but can be so much better, right?
Yeah.
Do you guys have any other thoughts? Anything you want to close with?
There's always room for improvement, but, you know, like we said, despite the look of their Twitter page, we do still invest and use these exchanges, so they're doing something right.
Right. Yeah.
Solid discussion.
Great. Well, thank you so much for your time. I'm Sean.
I'm Tara.
I'm Karan.
And we are the Blockchain Cooperative.